Madam Witness, you said that you have relatives in Russia. What does or what do your relatives think about the invasion in Ukraine? What do they think about it?
It's a difficult question. At the moment, my husband is in captivity, and they worry about him because that's a relative, but they are citizens of Russia. And immediately when we called them, well, on the first days of the war, when we were telling them that we are bombed, we are shelled, they couldn't believe that. I don't know if they believe that now, but a lot of them are afraid to speak openly, to speak what's on their mind, because that's criminally liable. It's punishable with a 15-year imprisonment. And I am not really in touch with them at the moment. These are my husband's relatives. And it was really painful when he was taken, and ethnically he's Russian. And he was taken by captivity by Russian forces. And then they would tell me something. And after the occupation, I wasn't really sure whether he is alive yet. I was searching for the bodies of all of them, the three, the nephew, the brother-in-law, and my husband. I wasn't sure whether I will be able to find them, whether they will be alive or dead. And I texted them, these relatives then, and they were texting back nonsense. Allegedly, that's a kind of a revenge for us. I immediately texted back to them saying, if you love us, you should believe us. On the 18th, when military came to us, when we were separated, when we were questioned separately, at some moment somebody all of a sudden gave this shout, bring them over here. We were brought to our house. My husband was on his knees with the gun pointed at him, and the military were searching the house, the garden, and at this very moment, I saw how electric appliances were taken away from our house. They were packing it into what they had. They put the laptop in the backpack. They put the camera, the other things into the backpacks. You know, we were sort of prepared that they would loot, take some electric appliances, because we saw this happening. We saw this, their military equipment loaded with all this stuff. But at the moment when we were told say goodbye to each other, we were not ready for this at all. And we were just standing there. My husband was on his knees. We were standing next to him. It was me and my brother. And we were told, you have to part. You have to say farewell to each other. And we couldn't grasp it. What do you mean? Are we going to be killed now? What is going to happen then? And then this soldier said, should I start beating you? Should I shout it out again? I put on my knees next to my husband. He was really cold. And we were taken again back to the house of my mother-in-law, and my husband stayed, and me and the brother of my husband, we were kind of split, and sometime later I was told, okay, you are free to go. And I just stood up, and at this very moment, this soldier disappeared. I ran out, and there was nothing. There was no all that electric appliances piled, just destroyed military equipment. Everything is upside down. But there were no servicemen, there was no soldiers, there was no husband, there was nobody. I couldn't find anybody. And my neighbor came to me, an old guy, and he said, I came back from the captivity. I was taken yesterday. That's That's what he told me. And he said that he was moved around in this military equipment. He was stayed with Russian soldiers where they were. That's what they did. That was kind of, the procedure that they resorted to. The civilians that stayed there were put on top of all this military equipment that they had, so that our Ukrainian armed forces didn't bomb them, or they took civilians in captivity and kept our civilians in the places where they were stationed overnight. But these civilians were kept in inhuman conditions. They stripped them. It was very cold then, and they had civilians' hands tied up. People were not let go to the bathroom. People had to go to the bathroom where they were. People were not fed. Well, some were lucky, some were beaten, some were not. This neighbor, he's over 70. He said that he was released. He was let go, and he said maybe Zhenya, that's my husband's name, would be released tomorrow. So we were waiting for this tomorrow every day, but it never happened. Unfortunately, this neighbor, after all these tortures that he was subjected to, died recently.